Hi, you're on the Reddit Confessions channel. If you've ever felt your reality warp in slow motion, like someone flipped a switch and forgot to tell you, you'll understand what I'm about to say. This isn't a story about how we met. This is a story about the day she decided to hit pause on my existence, and the day I decided I wouldn't be around when she pressed play again. It happened on a Monday. Not a dramatic day. No shouting, no tears. Just a cold coffee on the counter and her eyes avoiding mine. She said, "Let's take a break." Like we were some casual playlist, like our shared rent, our grocery lists, our winter blankets, our quiet Sunday mornings, were just background noise to mute until she figured herself out. I didn't even answer right away. I just remember the way she said break, like it wasn't supposed to break me. I asked one question. Is there someone else? She paused for just a beat too long, then smiled, and said, "This isn't about anyone. It's about me. I don't remember packing. I don't remember leaving. I just remember standing outside the apartment we'd lived in for 4 years, holding a grocery bag with 3 t-shirts, 1 charger, and the realization that I wasn't welcome anymore. You ever try to sleep on someone else's couch while your brain replays every word they ever said to you on loop like a punishment? I did. She called it space. I called it abandonment. She posted a photo 2 days later. Rooftop bar, wine glass, big earrings. A man's hand on her shoulder, cropped just enough to spark questions but not answers. I watched her forget me in real time. I saw the glow-ups, the healing era, the sunrise captions with poetry she never read before. And me? I faded like the inside cover of an old book she'd shoved on the bottom shelf. I didn't react. I didn't message. I didn't block her. I just disappeared. Not out of spite, not out of pride. But because I realized she'd already left, I was just the last to know. 3 months later, I got promoted, moved to a new city, started sleeping again without reaching for the cold side of a bed no longer mine. Then came the knock at my door, unannounced. She was standing there, mascara smudged, breath shaky, voice cracking like a radio between stations. "Malcolm, please, I didn't think it would feel like this." I didn't let her in. I didn't say much. Because what I didn't know then, what you'll find out soon, is that her break wasn't just about space. It was about Julian. It was about money. And it was about a lie so stupid it almost made me laugh. Almost. I didn't let Clara in, not because I wanted revenge, not because I'd healed, but because I didn't trust myself to look at her and not fall apart again. Her being there, standing on my new doorstep like nothing had happened, was surreal. Her mascara was running. Her lips were trembling, and she kept rubbing her hands together like she didn't know what to do with them. She asked to talk. I said I had nothing to say. She said she missed everything about us. I told her that everything meant nothing when it was treated like a placeholder until something better came along. I closed the door gently, not because I was strong, but because slamming it would have meant I still cared enough to hurt. That should have been the end. But it wasn't. The next morning, I had 3 missed calls from unknown numbers. By noon, I got a message from my former landlord back in Anchorage. "Hey, just so you know, someone's been asking about your forwarding address." Sounded urgent, said she was your wife. That same afternoon, my cousin Graham texted me a photo. It was Clara, sitting outside the pizza shop below his apartment, scrolling through her phone like she had nowhere else to go. She had nowhere else to go. But I didn't feel triumphant. I felt sick. Not because I missed her, but because it had all gotten so pathetic. This woman who once treated me like background noise was now orbiting my life like a lost planet. And I knew there was more to it. You don't chase a man you ghosted for 3 months unless something went wrong. Something had broken. Or someone. So I did something weak. I called my old coworker, Marty. He still worked at the municipal office and happened to be friends with Clara's cousin. He said, "Dude, you don't know?" She and Julian broke up. Messy. Apparently he borrowed money from her to start some stupid healing retreat and ghosted with half her savings. I heard she tried to track him down, but he blocked her on everything. That explained her sudden interest in me. She wasn't sorry. She was stranded. Here's where it gets worse. She never just walked away. She took pieces of me with her. My handwriting was still on her old notebooks. My playlists were still in her phone. I found out from another friend that she told people I'd abandoned her emotionally, that I never supported her dreams. the same dreams I built my life around. I remember just staring at the ceiling for hours, wondering how someone could rewrite history so casually. But then came the message that crossed the line. From a new number, just one sentence. I can't live without you. Please come talk to me before I do something stupid. I froze. Manipulation disguised as desperation. The kind of line you don't ignore, but also the kind you don't answer unless you're prepared to be dragged back into the storm you barely crawled out of. So, I did something I never thought I'd do. I went to her, not to reconnect, not to rescue, but to look her in the eye and tell her the truth, the kind that leaves a scar. But what I walked into wasn't what I expected, at all. She was sitting by the window, her eyes met mine immediately, like she'd been rehearsing the moment. The instant I sat down, she grabbed my hand like she was afraid I'd disappear mid-conversation. There was no small talk, no, how have you been? Just this avalanche of words that felt more like a confession than an apology. She said Julian used her, emotionally and financially. Said he convinced her to invest in a meditation center they were going to open together in Portland. Said she gave him nearly $10,000 and he disappeared 3 weeks later, vanished with her money and apparently her dignity. I didn't say anything, not at first, because part of me wanted to feel sorry for her, and another part wanted to scream that none of this would have happened if she hadn't turned me into a disposable background character in her life. She asked me if I ever thought about us. She asked if I still believed in what we had. I told her I believed in what I gave, not in what she threw away like a bad draft. Then she leaned in, lowered her voice, and said something I didn't expect. Mal, there's something else I need to tell you. I found out I was pregnant 2 months ago. My heart stopped. It actually stopped. But before I could speak, she added, I lost it. Miscarriage. I never told Julian. I was too scared, and now I don't know what's real anymore. I don't remember what my face looked like, but she must have seen something because she immediately started crying, loudly. People turned to look. I felt like I was being dragged into a scene I didn't sign up for. She said she wanted to come back to me, that she missed the quiet, the safety, the boring mornings she once complained about. She said, I know I made the worst mistake of my life, but I need you to help me fix it. I should have walked out. I should have said no. But instead, I sat there and asked the dumbest question of all. Clara, did you ever love me at all? Or was I just convenient? Her answer? Silence. And in that silence, I saw everything I needed to know. I paid for her tea and left. And I thought that would be the last time I saw her. But 2 nights later, I came home from work to find a box at my door. No name, no message, just a box. Inside was a photo album, our wedding photos. A hoodie of mine I thought I'd lost. And at the bottom, a folded piece of paper with 3 words, help me heal. I threw it all in the trash. But here's the thing, she didn't stop. That box, it was just the beginning. What she did next, well, let's just say it didn't just cross a line. It set the entire playbook on fire. After Clara dropped off that box, our memories really, my first instinct was to pretend it never arrived. And that's exactly what I tried to do. I didn't message her, didn't respond, didn't even hesitate when I tossed the box into the dumpster behind my apartment building. But deep down, it felt like a ticking bomb. Like the past wasn't just knocking anymore, it was clawing at the walls. 3 days later, the emails started. Not from Clara, from Julian. Yeah, him. The guy she wasn't seeing. The one who ran off with her money and disappeared into a cloud of incense and narcissism. I got an email from a burner address with no name, just a subject line that read, "You need to know the truth." The message was short. It said, ask her about Reno. Ask her about the 2 weeks before she asked for space. You were never the boring one, Malcolm. You were the backup. That one sentence broke something in me I thought had already been shattered. I stared at it for hours. Couldn't work, couldn't eat, couldn't even focus on the documentary I had put on to distract myself. My brain just kept looping the words. You were the backup. So I did what any emotionally wrecked, borderline paranoid man might do. I called Graham, told him everything, and he said, you know what, man? Screw all this indirect garbage. You want closure? Call her and demand it. Don't sit in the wreckage, burn it down and move on. So I called her, and I asked, what happened in Reno? There was a long silence. Then softly, you don't want to know. I said, I already do. You're just confirming it. That was when she started crying again. But it wasn't the soft, regretful kind of crying. It was this panicked, out-of-control sobbing that didn't sound like guilt. It sounded like fear. She told me she had gone to a weekend retreat in Reno with Julian and two other people. People she described as spiritually awake and emotionally liberated. That's when it all clicked. This wasn't just a casual affair. This was a full-on, emotional cult situation. The kind of manipulative community that love bombs you, then isolates you, and convinces you the ones who actually care about you are energy anchors. She admitted that she slept with Julian that weekend, more than once, and that when she came back, she looked at me and felt trapped in an old life. So she asked for a break, not because she needed space, but because she needed to leave without saying goodbye. That's when the crying stopped, and she whispered something I didn't expect. I never meant to hurt you. I just thought I was evolving. Evolving? That word stuck in my chest like a stone. I told her evolution doesn't involve lying and betrayal, that it doesn't look like destroying someone just because they didn't fit into your new, spiritually curated lifestyle. Then I hung up. I didn't yell, I didn't cry. I just stood in my kitchen staring at a blank wall, feeling like the person I'd been for the last 6 years had just been erased. Not by time, but by someone who used to love me. But just when I thought she had told me the worst of it, I got an envelope in the mail the next morning. No return address. Inside was a printed photo, a selfie. Clara and Julian, in bed. Taken during the time she said she was healing. On the back, written in thick black ink, were 5 words. You deserve to see it. No signature, no explanation. But I recognized the handwriting, and that's when I realized someone wasn't just trying to destroy Clara. They were trying to drag me into the fire. After I received that envelope with the photo, Clara and Julian tangled up in bed, mid-smile, like some sick trophy shot. I couldn't sleep. I left it on the counter for hours, just staring at it like it might dissolve or rewrite itself. But it didn't. It stayed. Real, heavy, ugly, and I couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't about closure. It was a message. But from who? Clara didn't know I'd gotten the photo. I was sure of that. She would have called me crying, or worse, showed up again. But nothing. Total silence. Which made me think Julian sent it. But why? Guilt? Revenge? Or was this some manipulative power move meant to pull me deeper into their chaos? I didn't tell anyone. Not even Graham. I just boxed it up and shoved it in the back of my closet, out of sight, but not out of mind. Every time I closed my eyes, I could see her face in that photo, smiling, not like she was ashamed, like she was proud. And that destroyed something in me I didn't know was still alive. 3 days later, things got worse. I came home to find my apartment door open, just slightly. Nothing broken, nothing taken. But the air felt wrong. Off. Like someone had been there and left just before I arrived. I checked everything. My laptop was untouched, my wallet was still in the drawer, and even the stupid avocado I'd left on the counter was still there. But my closet door, open, and the box with the photo, gone. I stood there for what felt like hours, not because I was scared, but because I couldn't breathe. The next morning, I got a voicemail from a number I didn't recognize. The voice was low, calm, and weirdly polite. Hey Malcolm, I think it's time you knew who you were really married to. Let's talk. I'll find you. Click. No name, no threat, just a statement. I'll find you. I reported it to the police, but of course, there wasn't much they could do. No forced entry, no real evidence, just vibes and paranoia. But I knew that this had Clara's name all over it, even if she didn't realize what she'd set in motion. Whether it was Julian or someone connected to him, she had opened a door that wouldn't close. And I was standing in the middle of it with no way out. I finally caved and called her, not to talk, just to scream. I asked her what the hell she had gotten herself into. She swore she didn't know anything, swore she hadn't talked to Julian in weeks, swore she'd been seeing a therapist, trying to rebuild her life. But the second I mentioned the photo, she went silent. And when I told her it was gone, taken from my apartment, she started sobbing again. This messy, panicked kind of cry that didn't sound staged. It sounded real, terrified. Then she said it. I think he's watching me too. And just like that, I realized, whatever this was, it wasn't just revenge. It wasn't about her healing, or me moving on, or some love triangle gone toxic. Someone was orchestrating something, something cruel, something calculated, but I didn't understand why, not yet. Because what came next would flip everything upside down, and it all started with a package delivered to my office. No return address, just a USB stick, and a note. Watch this before she does. It took me hours before I plugged it in. I sat at my desk, door locked, lights off, just staring at it like it might explode. I kept telling myself not to open it, that it was bait, that it was a trap. But curiosity isn't a whisper, it's a scream in your head. So I clicked. There were 3 files. No names, just timestamps. The first one was about 10 minutes long, shaky camera, low resolution. A room I didn't recognize at first, but then I saw the canvas, one of Clara's early charcoal pieces, the one she sold for $500 to a collector in Seattle. It hit me all at once. This was her studio, from the old apartment. The file was dated 6 months before the break, and she wasn't alone. Julian was in the frame, pacing, shirtless, barefoot, ranting. Clara sat on the floor, arms wrapped around her knees. He was shouting about energy blocks and the chains of domestic expectation. He said I was rotting her creativity. He told her, word for word, "You're wasting your evolution on a man who files paper for a living." I didn't know what hurt more, how much contempt he had for me, or the fact that Clara didn't say a word in my defense. The second file was shorter, a close-up. Clara crying, her makeup smeared. She kept repeating, "I don't know who I am anymore." Then she whispered, "He still thinks I love him. I don't even know if I ever did." That one crushed me, not like the first blow of betrayal, but like the long, deep kind of pain that comes when someone confirms your worst fear and delivers it in their own voice. The last file was just black screen. For the first 30 seconds, nothing. Then Julian's voice. "If anything happens to me, make sure he sees this. He deserves the truth." All of it, I closed the files, yanked the drive out, threw it in the trash. But the damage was already done. I couldn't unhear it. Couldn't unsee the words forming on Clara's lips as she cried into someone else's shoulder about me. I sat there in my office chair long after everyone else had gone home, lights buzzing above me like the world was laughing. I didn't contact her, not right away. But I knew I had to. Not because I owed her anything, but because this entire thing was spiraling out of control, and the more I tried to ignore it, the more it felt like it would bury me alive. So I texted her one sentence. "We need to talk." She responded in seconds. Said she'd meet me anywhere, that she was sorry for everything. I picked a public spot, a quiet diner where we used to go before life got complicated. When she showed up, she looked different. Not broken, not angry, just hollow. I didn't even ask her about the files. I just said, "Julian's gone, isn't he?" She nodded. Said no one's heard from him in weeks. Not his friends, not his exes, not the group he ran the retreats with. She thinks he's off the grid. I think he's hiding. But either way, she told me she feels like she's being watched. Her phone's acting strange. Her emails keep bouncing. She's been waking up to notes slipped under her door, with things only Julian would know. Inside jokes, old memories, even her childhood nickname. But the part that really sent a chill down my spine, she said she found a voice recording on her laptop last week. It was me, arguing with her, from over a year ago. A fight I barely remember, recorded without my knowledge. It was edited, twisted, spliced into something unrecognizable. In the audio, I sounded violent, unstable, and she was scared, because someone had cut it together to make me look like a threat. I told her about the files. Her face went pale. She swore she had no idea they existed, that she'd never recorded anything, that if Julian had that footage, she never gave it to him. We sat there in silence, 2 people who used to share a life, now sharing fear. And in that moment, I realized something terrifying. This wasn't just about love, or betrayal, or even revenge. Someone wanted us ruined. After that conversation at the diner, I couldn't sleep. I kept playing her words over in my head, how someone had cut and manipulated our past, how she felt like her world was shrinking, how Julian had vanished, and somehow, all roads were now leading back to me. I didn't trust her. Not entirely. How could I? But for the first time in months, I realized she might not have been the villain, at least not the only one. The next day I received another envelope. This one was hand-delivered to my office again, but this time with a red wax seal. No address, no name, just the words, "The Final Piece," written in all caps. I didn't open it right away. I stared at it for hours while trying to work. I even tried throwing it away twice, but both times I pulled it out of the trash before it even hit the bottom. Curiosity, again, playing games with my survival instinct. When I finally broke the seal and pulled out the contents, my blood ran cold. Inside were printed screenshots, dozens of them. Social media messages, chat logs, old emails, all between Clara and me, but edited, rearranged, words changed, entire chunks removed or falsified. The person I appeared to be in those messages wasn't just toxic, he was cruel, manipulative, threatening. There were messages saying things I never said, never even thought, accusing her of cheating, threatening to expose her, even one that said, "If I can't have you, no one will." But the most horrifying part? It wasn't just a collection of twisted memories. It was a narrative, a case being built. And whoever did it wasn't just out to destroy our relationship. They were out to make sure I would be the one to pay for everything. Later that night, I got a call from my HR department. One of the screenshots, God knows how, had been anonymously emailed to my company's ethics hotline, the edited one where I supposedly threatened Clara. They didn't accuse me of anything directly, but the tone was cautious. "We just want to give you a heads up, Malcolm. If this escalates, we may need to involve legal." That's when the fear became real, not just emotional fear, life-altering fear. I called Clara. She didn't pick up. I called again. Still nothing. When I messaged her, all I got back was a single sentence. "I think I made everything worse." I drove to her apartment. I know I shouldn't have, but I couldn't sit still. When I got there, her front door was open, just slightly, exactly like mine had been days earlier. I pushed it open. The apartment was trashed, furniture flipped, drawers dumped out, pictures shattered on the floor. No sign of Clara. I called out her name. Nothing. Then, in the middle of her living room, I saw it, her phone, sitting on a stack of printed photos, more screenshots, all the same twisted evidence. But this time, I noticed something new. A sticky note pressed to the top image. It read, "He's turning us against each other. Stop him. Please, I don't know why, but in that moment, everything clicked. This wasn't just Julian. This was bigger than him. He wasn't destroying us for revenge. He was doing it to watch it happen, like an experiment. Like he wanted to see how far he could push two people until they imploded. And I think I finally knew where he was. The retreat center. The one he said they were going to build together. The one Clara gave him money for. It was supposed to be abandoned. But what if it wasn't? What if this whole time, he was waiting for us to come find him? After finding Clara's trashed apartment and that sticky note pleading for help, I didn't hesitate. I drove 6 hours straight through the night to reach the retreat center outside of Bend, Oregon. The place Julian had told her about, the same one he supposedly abandoned after taking her money. It was deep in the woods, completely off-grid, barely marked on GPS. I kept questioning myself the entire way. What if I was walking into a trap? What if Clara wasn't even there? But something in my gut told me this was where the story ended, one way or another. When I arrived, the place looked deserted. Broken gate, weeds everywhere. Silence so loud, it made my ears ring. I parked and approached the main building, an old converted barn with cracked windows and a sagging roof. But the lights were on, dim, flickering like a heartbeat. I stepped inside. It smelled like dust, lavender, and something faintly burnt. And then I saw him, Julian, sitting cross-legged on the floor, staring at nothing, eyes bloodshot and vacant. He didn't move when I entered, just said, "I knew you'd come." His voice was different, slower, like the chaos had eaten through his brain. He started rambling about energy, control, truth, and how he had liberated Clara from her false self. I didn't care. I didn't respond. I just kept walking through the building until I found her. Clara was in one of the back rooms, asleep on a thin mattress, wrapped in a coat. When she opened her eyes and saw me, she burst into tears. Not dramatic ones, quiet, exhausted tears. I helped her up. She didn't fight me. We left without another word to Julian. We called the police from the nearest town. I handed over everything, the emails, the photos, the USB. Clara did the same. She cooperated fully. Julian was arrested later that week. Turns out he'd been doing this to more than just us. collecting data, manipulating people, staging digital blackmail campaigns to emotionally control his partners. It was psychological warfare dressed up as enlightenment. The DA built a strong case. The charges stuck. Claire and I didn't magically get back together after that. We didn't run into each other's arms or fall in love again, like some fairy tale ending. But we did talk. A lot. We apologized. We admitted our faults. We acknowledged the damage we caused each other. Some of it intentional, some of it not. And here's the truth. I forgave her. Not for her, but for me. Because holding on to betrayal like a badge of honor doesn't make you strong. It keeps you wounded. I realized I wasn't the man I had been when she said, "Let's take a break." I had changed, grown, learned how to protect my peace, value my worth, and choose what kind of life I wanted to live. Today, Clara and I are friendly. Not close, just healed. I moved to a new city, got a fresh start, a new job I actually like, friends who don't know me as the guy who got left behind, and for the first time in a long time, I wake up in the morning without dread sitting on my chest. And you know what? That's more than enough.